Hello, and welcome to another American Photo Trucks post-processing video. And today we're going to be post-processing images that we collected during our Milky Way on the Plains workshop. And this is always an exciting time of year because now we get to create a Milky Way panorama that it encompasses the whole Milky Way arch over the horizon. And we showed you how to capture the images out in the field. Now we're going to show you how to stitch them together and create a cool looking Milky Way panorama. If this is your first time ever watching one of these videos, that's me in the corner there. I know it was dark when you met me, and this is what I look like in the light. And everything that, every mouse click and everything that I make, you will see come up right here so you can follow along with me. And of course, if I start going too fast, the good thing about the video is you can just pause it and catch right on up with me. I'm going to be using Adobe Bridge, which is what I kind of use for my library tool. I know a lot of you use Lightroom, and it's very, very similar. And then I'm going to go into Adobe Camera Raw. And once I'm in Adobe Camera Raw, then I'll make some, that's where I'll process my panorama and do a lot of my edits right there. And then we'll go into Adobe Photoshop where I'll do some tweaking to try and just give the image a little bit more pop. So you can follow along with me, and I hope you find it useful. So first thing we do is we have to select our images. And here are the images I collected out in the field for my panorama. And we can see I kind of start on this side. Maybe didn't get quite far enough on that end as I wanted to. Made sure I got to the top to capture that whole arc. I was using a 20mm lens, and then made sure I went all the way over to get the core over there on the far southern side. And I wasn't sure if I got the whole northern side of it, so luckily I was on top of it enough to capture that image with the far northern side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Shift and use the arrow keys to select all the images that I want to use to create my panorama. And there they are. It looks like 9 images. And you know, I may not need all of these because as we can see there's quite a bit of overlap. But you know what? I got them here, so especially these two. These appear to be the kind of the same image here. So I'm going to not take that one. I do want this one. Definitely want that one. Definitely want that one. Let's see, is there a reason? Sometimes if there's two, I'll take the second one because I'm thinking there might be a reason I took that second one. Like maybe I thought it was slightly out of focus or something. And then the next one over, and it's and then the core. Let's see, I don't need that core twice. And I'll just get that, which gets the final end of it. Then I'll get this one over here, which will take me just a little bit farther over there to give me some breathing room. So there are 2 of these images that I feel like I just didn't need. In fact, I'm going to take away this one and use that one instead. This looks a little. So so these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 images should be fine. And to open them in Adobe Camera Raw, all I do is double click, and boom, there they are. So now all of my images are open in Adobe Camera Raw. And the first thing that I want to do is select them all because any change I make to one, I'm going to make to all of them. And right here, we see that I was shooting in auto white balance, which isn't always the best idea. It's really nice to kind of select your white balance beforehand and you'll see why now. So here I'm at 45 and plus 18. Go down to the next one, 45, 50, 18, 46. So they're all slightly different white balance, which if it's too radical can make a difference when you go to post-process these. So I'm going to select all of these, and then I'm going to select a white balance that daylight I don't like at all. So I think I'm going to go back to a shot, and then I'm going to pick one of my images here that has the core in it to be the main image that I'm looking at. And I'm going to adjust my white balance. And with them all selected, that means any adjustment I make to this one, it's going to make those adjustments to all of them. So I'm going to move this a little bit here, which is going to create a little bluer, darker sky, which is what personally I like. I know you may like, different things, but I like a bluer sky. The actual color of the sky at night, according to the prism, is actually green. It's a ugly green. So anytime you see anything with other than like a green sky, then it's slightly manipulated. So you can go ahead and complain to them. Now I'm really watching the snow here because I want my snow to be white. That's the great thing about shooting in the snow is you get. So I don't want some ugly temperature that's going to take away my beautiful white snow. So there's nice white snow, and we had that brown grass. So this right here still has a bit of a green tint to it. That's okay, I can fix that later. That's what I'm going to use. And I'm going to come up here to these little bars right there. I'm going to click on those. I'm going to say sync settings. It's going to say sync all of these for every picture. And I'm going to say, yep, do that. Boom. So now they're all going to have that same white balance. Let me pick one with snow here. That's pretty close to white. And again, we can tweak that once the panorama is made. All right, so now it's time to create our panorama. Now I'm going to use the panorama program in Adobe Raw. By doing that, I'm just going to click those little bars up there and say merge to panorama. And all of these okay. So it wants me to grab a profile. And since it didn't recognize my Sigma lens, I have to go tell it Sigma 20mm 1.4. There we go. So now that it has that, it can do the profile correction and create a much better panorama. So, okay, so click on, and it automatically does that for a lot of my lenses, but for this one it doesn't. So now we've done that. Let's say merge to panorama. So it's going to stitch these together. And that was pretty fast. Now, one of the great things I like about this particular merge to panorama program is this boundary wrap. Although I don't think we're going to have to use it here too much because it looks pretty darn good the way it is. But you can see how I can kind of straighten things out. And I just want to make sure my fence posts are sticking up, and I don't want to lose any at the top of that Milky Way. And I want to make sure everything stays nice and straight. And in the field, I leveled my tripod legs first, and that allowed me, I'm going to make that, I'm going to do it way more here, and it does kind of stretch the perspective, but I want that windmill to be straight up and down there. So that's what I'm looking at here, and that looks good to me. So I'm going to say merge. So you got to give it a name, and I'm going to call it Milky Way over Infinity Road 1 Pano. Save it there. Now that should open this for me right here in Adobe Raw. And look at that. It came out real nice. I got a nice infinity road. My windmill is straight up and down. I've got the entire Milky Way all the way from horizon to horizon. Pretty darn good. I'm not going to crop this in Camera Raw just because I like the crop tool in Adobe Photoshop a little better. I am going to do some other adjustments here. So one little cool adjustment to check my white balance here is this little eyedropper right there. You see that white balance tool? You can click on that eyedropper and then click on something in your picture that should be white, and it will set an accurate white balance. Now I guarantee I'm probably not going to like what it looks like here, but snow should be white. Let's just take a look. We'll remember our settings. 3900 plus 18. What do you know? Looks like I got a pretty good eye, because saying, you know what, Dave? You're right. That's white snow, and that's the color it should be. So I guess that worked out all right. So now I've got white snow and I've got a good color sky. I may, tweak that and change that a little bit later. And I've got a good Milky Way panorama. Now, a lot of times just to get started, I very rarely keep these settings, but I'll just hit the auto kind of to get started. And one good thing about it is it usually really shows me the Milky Way and all those stars. Obviously, we do not want it to be that bright, but now I can bring it down to about where I want it. These other things are tuned up, and boy, look at the Milky Way's already popping nice, like that. I like that. And so that looks pretty good. Of course, we are out there, in a populated area, so we've got some ambient light over here. We got those darn tall windmills over there, and we've got some, air pollution down here in the bottom, which is caused by humidity and those horrible green lights that some of those ranchers and farmers use. But still yet, it's kind of a pretty scene. So it's turned up the contrast really about where I like it. I don't want it too much more than that. And highlights, we want our Milky Way to pop, but we don't want, and we'd like that snow to pop a little, so I'm going to turn that up just a little bit. Shadow looks about right. I like the whites because I'm getting good snow. I'm really not going to play with that too much. I kind of like the blacks too. It looks, we can take them down just a bit. Now clarity, I'm going to turn down just a bit. I'm going to be doing some other things lately. I mean, as I go into Photoshop and stuff, and I don't want everything to look too crispy. You know what I mean? I want it to look nice and real. I'll turn the vibrance up just a little bit and leave the saturation probably where it is. Go over into my sharpening, and really I'm not going to sharpen it much. And I am going to give it just a little bit of luminance because we are shooting at 4000 ISO, which kind of helps with noise. But this camera really handles noise well. So I'm looking at it. I don't really want to change much. I might just leave that for later if I'm going to do it at all. Now I can come to my color sliders here, and I can start making some corrections to the sky and the Milky Way without affecting this beautiful white snow, and maybe even tweak things here a little bit more. So let's start here with the saturation, and or the hue, excuse me. Let me look at my my greens here, this right there. And I'm going to see what's going to happen if I move that a little bit more to the blue side. Move that a little bit more to the blue side. Come to the luminance part. Move that down a little bit. And boy, it's not affecting it too much, is it? Maybe bring that blue, make the blue a little bit, I'm moving the wrong slider. Make that blue just a little bit more blue. That kind of right there. And we'll see. And we've still got a little bit of this green, but again, that's okay. I got other places that I can play with that, and it looks pretty realistic. And I let my colors in through here. So I'll go over to, real quick. Unforeseen problem as the battery in my mouse is dying. Okay. We're back with that. All right, so I'm not really loving the blue. I want it just to be a little, but I will worry about that in a little bit. First now, I'm going to come over to the dehaze slider, and the dehaze slider is just fantastic for the Milky Way. I don't want to use too much of it, but if you use a little bit, as you can see, watch what it does. Boom. It's like a Milky Way slider. It works so well. You move it, and all of a sudden, your Milky Way starts to pop. I love it. Absolutely love it. And maybe the way I'll handle this over here is I'm going to move away from my green just a tad and see if my snow still stays white, as my sky will get prettier. And it sure does. That was the thing that worked. Now, another little thing we like to do is use our brush adjustment tool. That's right here, adjustment brush. And the great thing about that is we can adjust just the Milky Way to make it pop a little bit more. And the way we do that is we click on the brush, and as you notice, as soon as we clicked on the brush, we got all these sliders over here. Some of them are already kind of moved, and the reason they are is because I've used this to adjust before. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set these back to 0 here, and set all those back to 0. And I'm going to, with these keys here, you see over there, see over which keys I'm using? Right there, look right there. I'm making my adjustment brush bigger and smaller. And right about there looks good, where maybe just a little bit bigger. So the core is where these adjustments are going to be happening. That hard black circle is where these adjustments are going to be happening throughout. And then it's going to graduate, these adjustments are going to graduate out to that larger circle. So I want that black circle to encompass the core of the Milky Way and then graduate out. So now I'm going to go ahead, and before I do any adjustments, I'm going to paint my Milky Way like that. Okay? Now, as I make adjustments, it's only going to adjust where I paint it. And so now we're going to start with our little dehaze filter right here, and you're going to see that it's going to make the Milky Way pop a little bit. See there? And now maybe we want to make it a little more colorful. Well, we're going to move that saturation over just a little bit. Don't want to move it too much. See what happens there? But if you move it a little bit, then it makes it pop just a little bit. Clarity, we can play with it to see if maybe, because we don't want to use clarity on the whole image. If we shot at ISO 4000, we don't make it gradient bad, but we might want to make our Milky Way pop a little bit with the clarity, just a little bit. See there, it's starting to come to life. Contrast is obviously your friend with the Milky Way, because you want it to contrast with the sky, and it is. So we're doing that. And wonder about exposure. Maybe our Milky Way could just be exposed a little bit more than the rest of the sky, again, making it pop. So that's what I'm doing, just maybe a plus, not too much. I want to make it look artificial, but just a little tint, maybe 15, so that it starts to stand out from your sky. Isn't that nice? And whites are a powerful tool. Can make things come to life. See, gives it kind of a 3D effect. So can shadows, but you got to be careful with them. Shadows going down, again, gives it kind of that 3D effect. And look at the Milky Way coming to life here, giving kind of that 3D effect. That's nice. Looks good. And you can adjust white balance separately here if you want your Milky Way to be a little warmer, which I don't like that at all. A little cooler, which I don't like that at all. But maybe you want it to have just a little bit more pop in color. And there, you don't want to add too much purple, but a little bit's nice, like +4, gives it a little color in there. And there you go. So that's looking pretty darn good right there, and there's more we can do with it. But boy, this came out real nice, didn't it? So I'm ready now to open my image in Photoshop and do more work on it. So it's the only one highlighted, so I'm going to click Open Image. I don't know why that's up. That's just some old picture I took. All right, here's our picture in Photoshop. And it looks pretty good. So remember I told you that I like the crop tool in Photoshop just a little bit better than the crop tool in Adobe Camera Raw. And so I'm going to use the crop tool here, and I'm going to clear all the ratios because in this case I don't want any preset ratio. I want to set it myself. I'm wondering about this horizon. Is it perfect or does it look just a little off? Could it be just a tad off? Let's see. Yeah. That does look a little straighter, doesn't it? All right. That does look a little straighter. So I'm going to use that, and look, this is right at the center point of our infinity line. Life is good. So I'm going to hit enter, but you're saying, hey, wait, what about those ugly things over there? Well, I'm going to create me a little bit of a universe by, in this case, they're just so small, I'm going to use my content aware brush tool. Again, I'm going to use these right there to make it a little bit bigger. I'm just going to wipe right over that and boom. Isn't that cool? Works good. So really, you know, I could be fairly happy with what I got right here. It's kind of cool, but you know, we can play with it just a little bit more and make it just a little bit better, I think. All right, so I'm going to select just the sky and do some edits with the sky. And here I'm going to use my my selection tool, quick select. And again, it makes a little circle, and I can make a bigger circle here. And with a horizon like this, the quick selection tool just works fabulously because it's content aware and it's very easy. So boom, there I did my quick selection tool. And so now I think I'll start off by opening this up using my Nick tools, and I'm going to use Vivesa 2 at first. Okay, so because that was selected, then only my sky shows up. And this is good because sometimes your selections and the things that you do to the sky, you really don't want to do to the ground. So now I'm going to take a control point from my selection tool. And you know, you always want your core to really pop. So I'm going to add some extra stuff to my core right here. I'm going to give it a little more color. There we go. A little more color, a little more color. Too much. I'm going to give it a little more contrast, a little more. Don't want too much. Might even give it a little structure. Oh, that's the beauty of shooting with the camera like the A7S. You can use high ISOs and still really. Now, what if I want to add, you know, a little red to it? Nah, that don't look that good though, does it? Never mind. All right. What if I want to add a little green? And that looks terrible. What if I want to take away a little green? There we go. I like that better. Okay, and what about a little blue? Now, what if I want to take away a little blue? It's about right, and maybe if I just want to play with the hue just a little bit, see, and where I want it to look good. And not too much change there at all, really. In fact, I'm kind of regretting what I did there. But I just do want it to pop a little bit more, and I want people to really see my Milky Way. I want them to really see the core. And they do. So now I can make this little brush here, or this little thing here, small as I wanted to. And I'm just going to duplicate that and take it along with my Milky Way all across the Milky Way here. And I could do this with a brush and it'd be easier, but I get so used to using these circles. I like how they pick just certain areas, and that works for me. Now I could do some other adjustments here, and I'm going to, but I don't want those adjustments to bleed over into this, or it just gets too complicated. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this down over there. And now you can kind of toggle this so you can kind of see the adjustments I made with Vivesa 2. It's making it pop a little bit more. And now I'm going to go layer, flatten or merge. I'm going to do a snapshot so I can always come back to this. Now I'm going to open it up in Vivesa again. And this time I'm going to work on these areas down here because they're, I don't know, you know, there's stuff going on here, and let's see. So now I'm going to work here, and I don't necessarily want it to be up there. So I'm going to bring my brightness down here because there's an awful lot of stuff going on. I'll bring my brightness down. Kind of like some of this air glow down here. I'll bring my contrast up. I think I'm going to take away a little of this green that's going down here. I thought it was, but that don't look that good. Alright, so maybe just bring up a little blue and make it all more continuity. And I kind of like that. Contrast is good. So I'm going to duplicate that here, a couple more areas, just to make, again, I want the Milky Way to pop more. So I'm going to keep these circles. So by darkening some of these other areas, it also makes my Milky Way pop a little more. And it's all happening in the color realm that I'm working on here. I think, again, I don't want to be messing up all those adjustments I made to the Milky Way, so I'm going to show you a cute, cool little trick here. And these two may have to be even darker because they're messing with all that ground stuff. So there we go. All right, so it just made this right here. And you can kind of see the adjustment we made. We made things darker, made our Milky Way pop a little bit more. But I'm going to create a layer mask by clicking on this right here. And what that does is it just created a blank mask over this that I can make adjustments with. And I'm going to switch my brush colors here. As soon as you create a mask, your brush colors automatically go to black and white. I'm going to create my brush right here. I have an opacity of 100 and a flow of 100. Again, I'm going to make it about this. I'm going to make my brush about the size of the Milky Way, and I'm going to paint the Milky Way right there. And what that did is it's saying all the adjustments I just made there will not affect my Milky Way. And that actually did not come out that good because my brush tool was 100% and too hard, and that doesn't look normal. So I'm going to take my opacity down to about 60%, my flow down to about 60%. And now I'm going to paint that again so that my Milky Way is not affected as much by this layer, and it still pops. So now you can kind of see how that works. And these two areas right here, kind of still not my friend, are they? Kind of continuity. All right, so layer, flatten one more time into Viveza. And I'm going to kind of grab this area that didn't get enough attention a second ago. Bring down the brightness right there. And it might even create another one right about here. Bring down the brightness. And another one right about here. Bring down brightness there to make all this a bit more cohesive. All right. So now that looks pretty good. That looks pretty even. Got a good Milky Way going on there. Kind of like my colors. Not a real fan of this or this. It's red right there, or that ugly green. Layer, flatten. And so now I'm going to take the whole image back into Viveza. I'm going to use this zoom tool. I'm going to zoom in to that ugly green color that I don't like. I'm going to put a control point right there just on the ugly green color. I'm going to zoom in right there, and I'm going to use my green slider to help get rid of that ugly green color. And saying, okay, I'm doing it, Dave, but I'm leaving some ugly red behind, so I'm going to get rid of that too. Now it makes it kind of it's still a light there, but it's more cohesive all the rest of this. At least I think it is. All right, so now we're going to move over to the other place we're not all that happy with. And I'll tell you, I'm not sure there's much I'm going to be able to do with this. But again, this guy right here, I'm going to put a slider on this and bring it down here. And even though I may not be able to completely make these go away, I'm going to try and make them much less of a distraction they are by turning down the red. And it's working. See it working? So these ugly things are somewhat less of a distraction. I can't go too much because then it starts affecting everything here. So now you can kind of see as I turn that off and on what we've done. They were glowing big into the picture, and now we've made them smaller. And I might even try that right here too. This ugly thing, in this case I might just be turning down the brightness. No. So maybe just the saturation here. A little bit. Turn down the red. A little bit. Maybe now the brightness just a little bit. All right, you know, it is what it is, but I think we've helped. Let's take a look. Yeah, we've helped a little bit. So you can kind of see the difference. We've made that red duller, made that down a little bit. Probably forgot that over there. Looks pretty good. Layer, flatten. All right, now let's see. I think we're going to use Color Effects Pro here, right here, which again is part of the Nik tools. I'm going to click on it and bring it into, bring our whole image in there. And I think first I'm going to start off looking at just a little bit of Pro Contrast to make the whole image pop more. Now this will make the snow pop and the sky. I don't want to use too much, but a little bit could be nice. Correct contrast so that it looks smooth. Correct color contrast. Looks pretty good. All right. Now, I think I'm going to open that. See, and I'm not doing too much with any of these. You can kind of see the difference that made. Just made everything pop just a little bit more. So right now, I'm pretty close to what I think is I could be done. I was thinking about using a softening mask or something along those lines. I'm going to try one more thing. I'm going to tone map this, and at ISO 4000 you may think I'm nuts because I'm just going to get too grainy and ugly, but watch. So you see how everything suddenly pops, but now you're worried about grain and all those other things, right? Well, I am too. I'm not going to apply that much. Now, I like how everything's popping there and you can really see things, and it seems to be, you know, much more of a dynamic image. Even down here it seems much more dynamic. So I'm going to take that slider to opacity all the way down to 0. I've created a layer there. Now I'm just going to start moving that up until I get my effect and no further, so I don't want to go over the top. So that's over the top, and I can get about the same impact at 70 without hopefully over crunching my image. So that's kind of cool right there. A lot going on. That might be it for this. I was hoping there'd be more to tweak, but there really isn't. But I'm going to layer, flatten, just in case I mess this up. I'm going to go to snapshot so I can always come back to here, and this creates a little snapshot here where I can always return to this setting exactly. But there's a couple things I just want to try because there's a couple things here that I hate. One of the things that I hate right here are some of these distracting lines. So first I'm going to try and get rid of this ugly red thing, the content aware tool. And that actually did a pretty darn good job. Left behind a little red though, do you see that? So I can take that, go there, just get a little bit more. I can do that with these ugly green ones too. I just do not like them. Now I can use my selection tool here to try and select all of this ugly blue right there, and I'm going to see what fill does here. It may not work that good, but let's just see. It did not. Alright, so I'm going to show you a trick right now. So I'm going to back up just one. Watch this. So you have to understand how these selection tools work. I'm going to select just my sky. Okay. Now I'm going to right click on this and say layer via copy. So that's going to create a layer that has just my sky in it. Now I'm going to shut off my background and now I'm going to zoom back in to where that thing was that I didn't like. And we noticed that when we tried to content aware fill and we had the ground there, that it took some of the ground, and I should have been paying more attention when I made my copy here, but it's not going to make a difference on this one. So now if it doesn't have the ground to choose from, it's only going to have the sky to try and figure out what to do here. So now I'm going to say fill content aware, and I still don't like the results here, but because you see how blotchy and nasty that is, but you can see that it didn't grab any sky. So that's still not working for me. I'm going to back up one more time, and luckily I might just have to create some galaxies here. Select, deselect, I'm going to grab my select, deselect. I'm going to grab my clone tool, and I'm going to be at okay. Oh, so there, I've corrected. Now I've got my source layer. So now, great thing about the clone, one key thing about the clone tool is find lines and work on those lines. If things do not look right when you're cloning, it's usually because you didn't find the pattern and create it. So I've got a pattern here with my horizon, and I'm going to use it. Just come right there. And I don't mind that things are going below the horizon because I have created this separate. Now look what I did. I made that plane go everywhere. All right, the plane's got to go. Oh, biplane, 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 biplane. All right. So same kind of thing here. It's got to go. I'm going to use my clone instrument here. I got to be careful there because there's some kind of red light up there that I don't want to move. So I'm going to grab it right there. Come over here. There we go. Don't really care for that much, so I'm going to grab some over here. Blend that out. Didn't really like how that came out either. Go back. And we'll take a look at this. Get the idea. We could try to do that over here, but there's just too much into the sky. Too much else going on. Turn back on this bottom part. And take a look at what we did here. And you can see we've still got a little green up there. I'm going to grab that clone tool, turn it down now to about 70. And just try and make, see there's a pattern in the sky here, this green. I'm going to just try and make that continue on and blend it so that it isn't going to be something that grabs the eye or looks fake. Might even do that with the horizon here. Same kind of thing here. You can see there's a little, messed with our horizon a bit here by accident, so I bring that on here, make it all match up. All right, let's take a look at our overall image. Got some of that air glow over there. Layer, flatten. And one thing this thing is really good at is getting rid. I spoke too soon, didn't I? And see, the details will drive me nuts. I'm just saying they absolutely will. All right, one more time into Vivesa. So this is probably one of the longer ones, but it's a cool image, and I just want it to be right. Come right here, grab this green area, and just turn down the green just a little bit, because the eye is going to it, and I don't like it. There can be a little green there. Just don't want it to be such an eyesore in my picture. Know what I mean? Let me grab one more, smaller one right here. Bring that green down too. Just a little bit. Ah, I like that better. Okay, there's a little green there, but it just looks like air glow. Doesn't look like anything really bad. It looks a little normal. Oh, that was bad. Sometimes when you have blotchy areas and you want to smooth them out, this this patch tool, this flat patch tool can work really well. It's great. You use it for skin too. It's a really great way to just bring continuity, but I don't know how well it's working with my rather crunchy night sky right now. So I might just avoid that. So say it's pretty good. Anything else that's, yeah, there's one, isn't there? This thing I just hate. It looks like a car was looking at us. All right, let's see what content aware can do with it. Not bad. Not bad. All right. Even that out just a tad. So this is going to be one of my longer ones, but again, details matter, man. They absolutely do, and that's looking pretty darn good. Now, one more little thing that sometimes can act like magic, just a little finishing touch to these kind of images. Image adjustment, exposure, gamma correction. Watch this. If I turn this down, it's kind of turning down the little bit of the exposure, but it's doing it in such a way that it maintains or enhances a little bit the contrast. You see how it just made everything pop? Just a little bit. Don't want to go too much. There, that's pretty good right there. Okay. And I like that. See the difference I made? Before gamma correction, after. It looks more like a night sky now. It's darker, but you can still see everything, and it really pops. And maybe you're saying, but yeah, but you made your darn foreground too dark. Well, select inverse. I don't know what's happening here. And now let's just image adjustment exposure. Now let's just turn up our exposure just a tad on our foreground. And look, now the snow is popping. Not too much, you don't want to go for sure. Now the snow's popping, and it's still consistent with everything else. And boy, there's just some ugly red, isn't there? Let's try this. Image adjustment, hue saturation, red channel, turn it down. See our reds over there? Look a little fakey. I don't like that. So I'm turning the reds down here. There we go. I got rid of a lot of that down here and made it all look a little bit more like, let's look at the Milky Way, not the weird glows other places. Okay, select, deselect. So here you can kind of see what I did with that hue saturation before, after. And I'm starting to like this real well. I like that infinity road just going right out into the Milky Way. I like our cool, just making sure, boy, the detail on this is amazing, isn't it? Now we do have some grain when we zoom in like that. I'm not sure that it bothers me on an image this big. And you know what, I could play with the luminosity or whatever to get rid of it, but I'm not going to. I like it just as is. So right here at this point, I would be just save it as a TIFF, and then I can go back and play with it again if I want to, or later I would save it, you know, as a JPEG and share it. But that's essentially it. This is definitely a longer one. We went into more detail, but I've done a lot of short, quick ones, and figured you guys might like something where you kind of see my whole process, where I really start getting into the details and clicking on things and making it exactly the way I want to. And so I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you very much for coming to Milky Way on the Plains, and hope you got some great images. I've already seen some fantastic images on Facebook. Please tag American Photo Treks when you go out on these and share them, and it just helps promote our business, and that's nice. And please continue coming, and hope to see you again. You guys have a great rest of your day. All right, bye-bye.